Hey there guys, we just wanted to do a quick little video showing off a very interesting interaction that some of the Heroclix players have discovered semi-recently. This is not a brand new discovery and we did not come up with it. I don't know who, but if I can find who has the first posting of this little tech, I will be sure to credit them in the description below. But this is a very, very interesting option for X-Men teams moving forward. As anybody who's familiar with X-Men teams currently, Professor X is the entire build around for that team. We'll go through exactly why in a little bit, but Professor X has some very unique abilities that when synergized with this Magneto from Uncanny X-Men and this Ultron drone, there's a couple different Ultron drones, I just have the Ultron 6 drone from the Age of Ultron storyline play. You get some bullshit happening pretty quickly. So we'll go through the relevant abilities on these figures and show you what's up. So first, this Professor X. He's got a bunch of text on him. He's got this cool rally die with the leadership. We don't care about that. We care about recruiting for a future threat. At the beginning of the game, you replace up to 5 friendly characters with the same number of characters from your sideline on their starting Clix. All replacements and replaced characters must have the X-Men, Shi'ar, or Illuminati keywords and different names. The total points of the replaced characters can't exceed the total points of the replaced characters. So, what this means is when you start your game, you both set your teams down and you look at your opponent and you see their team and you go, huh, what does that team do? And then you figure it out. And then Professor X lets you swap up to 5 of your characters on your starting force for up to 5 characters on your sideline. So if you see that your opponent has a bunch of stop clicks, you can bring in Exodus or Karima, 2 characters that are very good at dealing with characters with stop clicks. And you can bring out some more aggressive characters or more utility characters that are not so good into those matchups. If you see your opponent has a bunch of Mystics team ability, you can bring in somebody with Invincible or somebody with Poison to counter the Mystics team ability. This is a very first level introduction to this Professor X's ability. There's a lot of bullshit you can do with this ability, and I'm not going to go into all of it here because that would make the video like 45 minutes long. There's so much you can do with this figure, and we're just scratching the surface with the weird shit you can do with this Magneto. So, going to this Magneto, he is the next piece of the puzzle. He is 150 points, which is a lot of points to be committing to a 300-point competitive team force, which is what this is built for. This is built for competitive X-Men teams. He's got 2 abilities here. The entire world is a dead dream of scraps. This means nothing. We don't care about this ability. It doesn't do anything. Creator of the X-Men in this reality. When building your force, you may choose a character of 150 points or less. That character has the X-Men keyword this game. So we can start to see where we're going with this. Magneto can make anybody in the game an X-Men, and then Professor X can swap them out for somebody else. You can't swap in an X-Men, because he says on your starting force, it's only your starting force guys that gain this X-Men keyword, so you can't bring somebody from your sideline in to tag out for. But you can have somebody already starting in and tag out for another normal X-Men printed keyword figure. You can do some fun stuff with this where you make somebody who's not an X-Men, and then you swap Magneto out and you bring somebody else in. But remember, we have to swap the exact same amount of points. So generally, you're going to run some X students, which are 15 points, or other cheap utility X-Men figures that you don't mind losing when they swap out, because you need to have the same number of points and the same number of figures. So if you swap out one 150-point piece, you need to bring in another 150-point piece. You swap out a 150-point piece and a 15-point X student and a 25-point Professor X, then you've got 190 points to play with to bring 3 figures in, right? Now that's just turning anybody you want into an X-Men and leaving them on your team. We're not turning anybody we want into an X-Men. We want this Ultron 6 drone. Now, in the Age of Ultron storyline play, there was a couple of these figures that had a drone mode. This Ultron 6 is one of them. I know that the Ultron Future is the main one this tech was discovered for, but Ultron 6 works, and it's honestly easier to pull. He's lower rarity. He does the exact same job. He's a worse figure overall, but he does the same job. We don't care about what this figure actually does. So, they all have a drone mode, which I've got behind this card here, and a special drone dial. So, the only ability we care about right now is this autonomous or drone mode ability. So, Ultron 6 costs 120 points, or costs 30 points and begins on click 1 after the orange KO. This is an old figure, so I can't show you the entire dial, but this doesn't matter. Until KO'd, Ultron 6 is considered 120 points. Now you might see what's going on here. Magneto is going to pick this character, which is less than 150 points, and turn them into an X-Men. Then, when they're on your team, this thing is worth 150 points, this thing is worth 25 points, and this thing is now worth 120 points. But you only paid 30 points for this figure when you were building your team. But now that it's worth 120 points, Professor X swaps all these guys out. You've got 150 points, 120 points, and 25 points. Plus, realistically, there's going to be a couple cheap figures like the X students that I was talking about for another 15 points. So most commonly, you're going to be swapping out 120 points here, 30 points with the 2 X students to 15 points each for another 150 points, 150 point Magneto, and 25 points of Professor X. So you're going to swap out 325 points of guys that you can then bring in 5 figures worth 325 points, but you've only paid 235 points for your build. So you have another 65 points of figures that are not swapping, that are like over here, for say, right? Now, you can bring in the Moira McTaggart, or a multiple man at 10 points, or some items, or just a 65-point figure that's like a good X-Men. Like, there's good 65-point X-Men figures you can just run on the team, right? I personally like to have a 7 or 8-man team for my X-Men team because winning map rule is very important for X-Men. But this is a insane synergy that is happening right here. You are playing with 390 points, and your opponents are playing with 300. This is what is currently being abused with this Professor X. There's been other stuff that's been abused with this Professor X previously, but this is the current thing that is pushing X-Men teams over the edge. X-Men teams are not bad right now in the meta. They're really good. They're not like crazy broken, but they're like a solid top of tier 2 option for competitive players to bring with X-Men. Now that I can play another 90 points over my opponents, the X-Men are really, really good. I would definitely familiarize yourself with competitive X-Men teams if you are a competitive player, especially with this interaction. This is going to break shit. I'm 100% certain of it. There's going to be some other tech that somebody finds out with Professor X, and in combination with this, the game's going to be over. It's going to be X-Men for days. And I personally am here for it because I love me some X-Men. Especially as I'm going to be one of the ones on the front line with this on my bullshit. So, if you or your friends have any of these pieces, the Chase Magneto from Uncanny X-Men, the uncommon Professor X from X-Men Rise and Fall, or the rare Ultron 6 drone, as well as a couple other Ultron drones that can do it from the Age of Ultron organized play event, I would highly recommend picking up this entire set. You don't need the X students necessarily. You can run anything else you want, normal X-Men stuff, just fun X-Men stuff. This is functionally cheating. You're functionally cheating. This also works in 400 and 500 and 600 point casual games. You just get 90 points more than your opponent. Now, that scales better in a 300 point game. 90 points over your opponent in a 300 point game goes a lot farther than 90 points over your opponent in a 400 point game, but this is still crazy. I would definitely recommend picking these pieces up if you are a fan of X-Men, or if you just want to do some broken shit until they fix it. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, hope you guys learned something with this new tech, and I hope you guys are excited about the new future of X-Men as I am.